morning from the office. I'm BKP, North Georgia's only. Why you play a George Jones? I don't want to hear George Jones at 8 o'clock this morning, Lonnie. I give you control of the music on Monday, and this is what you do? Folks, it could be worse. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show.
I'll get you worse.
I won't give control of the music to Lonnie anymore. We have a big show. What is going on in Georgia with the Georgia delegates this past weekend at the local district conventions? We're going to have a show dedicated to trying to get to the bottom of some of the things that are happening, some of the things that will happen at the state convention, and some of the things that may happen in Cleveland. So we have 4 guests today. We're going to go back to back with four guests right in a row. We're going to have Debbie Dooley's going to be on with us. She was at the 7th District Convention. We're going to then have Linda Umberger. She was at the 9th District Convention. Then we're going to have Todd Rehm. Todd was at the 6th. I'm pretty sure he was at the 6th District Convention. And then our final guest of the day is going to be Jeanne Seaver, Jeanne Seaver, down in the 1st District. So that is the 4 guests we have, and we're going to try to find out a little bit of what took place, because if you're reading all the news cycle this morning in Georgia, most of it, national news, international news, this has gone all over the world. This has been on the Drudge Report, Breitbart articles all over the place. What took place at the local district conventions in Georgia picking delegates? Did Cruz outmaneuver Donald Trump? What happened? And you know, this past weekend, Donald Trump said if the RNC does not get the rigged, he calls it the rigged system, in line immediately, it's going to be make for a long July. Now, before we get into that, I want to know see, there's things that have been said on the campaign trail that nobody will talk about. So before we start what happened in the district convention, I want to talk about one thing, okay? What is so concerning in the 28 pages that the Saudis are ready to dump $950 billion of American assets? How have we gotten ourselves into a position that just anybody can threaten us at any time? The Saudis say if we let the American people know what's in the 28 pages, they will do a $950 billion asset dump. That's in one headline. The next headline is a video of a Russian jet fighter 50 feet from one of our naval ships in the Baltic Sea. 50 feet. Do you know what that video is missing? Is that jet fighter disintegrated. I mean, that is the only thing that within, I think, 50 to 30 feet this jet came within our ship in the Baltic Sea, this Russian fighter. In a fighting maneuver it came in, an attack maneuver. The only thing missing in that video would be a disintegrated jet fighter is what's missing there. I'll tell you, folks, what's in the 28 pages now. Listen to this. Donald Trump has been the only candidate in the race that has actually said anything and brought up Saudi Arabia. What has them so nervous? Let's go back here real quick, because the media has gone after Donald Trump about everything he brings up with Saudi Arabia, 9/11, and an example here. This is from an article. This is from an article from PolitiFact, and this is on March 3rd. And you know, obviously they're making fun of Donald Trump bringing up a debunked story. This is what Donald Trump said at the Detroit debate. As an example, he resurrected a claim he has made before that wives of the 9/11 terrorists knew what was going to happen and fled the United States to Saudi Arabia just before the attacks. Here's Trump's quote. A man flies into the World Trade Center and his family gets sent back to where they were going, and I think most of you know where they went. And by the way, it wasn't Iraq, but they went back to the center territory. They knew what was happening. The wives knew exactly what was happening, Trump said. They left 2 days early. They left 2 days early with respect to the World Trade Center, and they went back to where they went, and they watched their husbands on television flying into the World Trade Center, flying into the Pentagon, and probably trying to fly into the White House, except they had some very, very brave souls on the third plane. Now, they've made fun of Donald Trump saying this, but all of a sudden, the 28 pages, what has Saudi Arabia so upset that we may open up those 28 pages and find out possibly their involvement in 9/11? Huh? You know, I'm telling you, that one bothers me. But like I said, this morning, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Georgia State. Do you think out there that the delegates are being stalled, or is that Ted Cruz is stealing the delegates? Or do you think that just, the situation is he's outmaneuvering Donald Trump, and Donald Trump should have known how things work? What do you think out there, folks? It was a long weekend, beautiful weekend. I hope you went out and had a great time. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. What's something going on, Lonnie? Oh, okay. Lonnie's trying to learn this new soundboard. We got him a new soundboard over here. It's like he's got a new toy. And so we're, like I said, we're going to have 4 guests this morning. We're going to talk about the delegates here in Georgia and what has taken place. We're going to get from the 7th District. Now, there's been a lot of articles this weekend on Breitbart. I don't know if you've seen some of the Breitbart articles that made the Drudge Report. And to talk about the delegates, Ted Cruz seems to enjoy winning delegates in no competition races where there's no votes. Is Debbie on the line? Okay, we're gonna get Debbie on the line with us now. This is Debbie Dooley. Let me know when you got her plugged in there, ready to go, Lonnie. Debbie, are you with us?
I am. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you got up so early to join us.
Well, I am too. I am too. I usually wake up pretty early, so.
Well, you've been busy this weekend talking to reporters. About how many reporters did you talk to from Saturday to today?
Well, I mainly talked to Breitbart Saturday, but a friend of mine with Fox News, I just noticed an email in my inbox too, asking me, what's going on, and I have a lot of interviews set up for today. I've got so many that I was scheduled to go to Louisiana to visit my parents, and I had to put it off a day because there's so much interest in this story. So yours is the first interview of the entire week.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm glad you're on here this morning. I've seen John Roberts talking about it on Fox, actually on both of the Fox networks, and this morning talking about the Georgia delegation. Let's talk about, you were at the 7th District Convention this weekend?
I was.
Give us a little highlight of what took place over there. You posted a video, and according to the article in Breitbart, give us a little highlight of what took place over in the 7th District.
Well, basically, the Cruz people, and let me preface this by saying that this whole process began in February to select delegates at the mass precinct meeting. And at the mass precinct meetings, you elect delegates to the county convention, or you elect delegates to the district and state convention. And so at the district convention, Cruz made sure he got his people out to, the county convention and district convention. And a lot of the Trump campaign started late on the delegate selection process because they incorrectly assumed that the Cruz campaign would respect the will of voters that voted on March 1st and not seek to overturn the election. So there were mostly Cruz people that showed up at the 7th District. This went on. What happened in the 7th District happened in other districts statewide. Cruz supporters were there. They were extremely rude to a lot of Trump supporters that were wearing Trump T-shirts or had Trump stickers on. And it was a subset of Cruz supporters. They were rude. They were systematically intent on voting down the entire slate. There was somebody from Forsyth County there that was actually had a pro-Cruz super PAC, was clearly coordinating on the floor with the Gwinnett Cruz campaign. And they made it clear they were not going to support any Trump supporter as a delegate, even though Donald Trump overwhelmingly won the district. He received 2 Trump delegates were allocated to Donald Trump, 2 delegates, and 1 to Rubio. Ted Cruz finished 3rd in the 7th District, yet on the delegates that were elected at this convention, not one was a Trump supporter. Every one of the delegates that were elected were either Cruz supporters or maybe 1 or 2 Rubio supporters. And that was what was going on. I came out of the nominating committee. They recommended me after vetting all the candidates. They recommended me as a Trump delegate, and they challenged me. And I told them, and I was receiving text reports statewide of what was going on, that the same thing was going on in the state. So I told them, I said, look, guys, if you exclude Trump supporters from this slate from a district Trump won, then, I had been talking off and on with the Trump campaign. I said, they could challenge they will challenge the slate at the national convention because you purposely excluded Trump supporters. And so David Hancock won, but Kathy Hildebrand is president of the Conservative Republican Women of North Atlanta. And she's active with the Cruz campaign. Andrea Dembski's active with the Cruz campaign. And even David Hancock, who was elected, is active with the Cruz campaign. And they basically got up and made it very clear that the real election did not happen on March 1st. The real election's happening with delegates that attend the county convention. So all of the voters and this went on statewide in Georgia. So the 502,000 Georgians that voted for Donald Trump at many of the district conventions, the majority of the district conventions, their vote was overturned and basically ignored. On some of the Trump delegates in different districts, like, for example, in the 11th district, Scott Johnson is a Trump delegate, and he's grassroots coordinator in Georgia for Ted Cruz. And this happened in district after district. The Trump campaign paid for flyers to recommend Cruz supporters to be delegates.
You mean the Cruz campaign?
Yeah, the Cruz campaign.
Yeah, the Cruz campaign paid for flyers. Well, let me ask you a question, but everything you're saying, let me get an understanding of this, but are those not the rules? Your local counties... They
are. They are the rules, but I guess I would assume the Trump campaign never expected the Cruz campaign and some of the establishment to work to game the rules so they could overturn the results of the election on March 1st. The rules need to be changed, and they can be changed. I think we need to go to a new system. In Alabama, delegates are selected. You have to qualify just like you're a candidate. You have to qualify, pay a very small qualifying fee, and say this is the candidate I would like to be a delegate for. When voters go vote, they'll have Donald Trump's name at the top, then the list of delegates that are running by statewide, and a list of delegates that are running by congressional district, and they go through and also vote for the delegates while they're voting for, the candidate. That is a fair way of doing it. The Republican National Committee, if they wanted to put an end to the controversy, they could vote to change the rules that actually state that the candidate, that one delegate has the right to replace delegates if it is proven they support one of his competitors. I think that would be the fair way to do it. But, the 502,000 voters that cast their vote for Donald Trump were basically, the message was sent that their vote doesn't matter. Party insiders are going to choose the nominee. I don't know why with the rules like they are, and it's been that way for a long time, but the controversy has never come up. I was a delegate in 2012. I was a delegate pledged to Newt Gingrich when Newt dropped out and released his delegates. There was no controversy. Mitt Romney was the front runner. And so I just supported Mitt Romney. Only this year has this extreme controversy came out. And it's unfortunate. I think it's going to negatively impact the entire Republican Party in Georgia because voters are angry that a message was sent. Party insiders are the ones that determine the nominee, not the voters.
Debbie, let me say this. Hold on just a minute. Just first of all, we're on the phone with Debbie Dooley. She was present at the 7th District here in Georgia, 7th District convention. Let me ask you a question though, Debbie. First of all, are the delegates that were selected, are they bound to vote for Donald Trump? And what is the status on that as far as their vote?
Well, they're bound to vote for Donald Trump only on the first round. I talked to Randy Evans actually Friday night at an event, and he spoke and he made it clear, the clarification, because there was a conflict between what state law has, what Republican Party law has, and the state law says 2 delegates, but the state law would only apply if the convention were actually held in Georgia, which is not. It's in Cleveland. And, the bottom line is the RNC rules override. They, determine that. So they are saying it is only for one round. But basically, if you have Cruz supporters that are Trump delegates, they could go to Cleveland and vote to change the rules up there to be in favor of their candidate, of Ted Cruz. And with talks of a contested convention, I can tell you the Cruz people that were elected to represent Donald Trump as delegates, they're going to vote. They're not going to honor the will of voters that cast their ballot on March 1st. They're going up there and they're going to actively work against Donald Trump and support Ted Cruz. In many of the districts, Ted Cruz did not win one delegate, yet the majority of the delegates that were elected Saturday are Ted Cruz supporters. Now, the 7th District, Jason Thompson, who is the chairman, he ran a fair convention. He fought very strongly that Trump supporters should actually, serve as delegates. He fought to honor the will of voters. The nominating committee fought to honor the will of voters. The 7th District Republican Party leadership did the same, but they were overruled by Cruz supporters. And as I said, this took place in, almost every district. I would say out of 14 districts, this took place in probably 11 or 12 districts where Trump supporters were systematically targeted not to serve as Trump delegates.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, is it just a case where, I mean, the party, I keep up with how the party works and the rules, and you do yourself, but most people don't. They go out and vote, and they don't realize that they're actually, when they vote, they're validating party rules, and they're validating all these things, that this is how this party is run. Did the Trump people just get outmaneuvered this past weekend? I mean, I'm not hearing
they did. I mean, they actually did. As I said, the actual process began in February. And my understanding is that, and I have been so busy working out of state and all that, nobody thought in the Trump campaign on a national level, I mean, they never would have thought that the Cruz campaign would systematically work to overturn primary elections and go against the will of voters. And that is what is going on. And yes, they were outmaneuvered. But who would have thought that somebody that supposedly is a constitutional conservative would be working to overturn an election? The Cruz supporters at the 7th District got up and basically said that the real election takes place at the conventions, not the Republican Party primary. So why even have a primary? If the Georgia Republican Party is going to allow party insiders to pick the nominee, why go through the charade of having a primary? Because they are only bound for one round, and they could go vote and support a rule change that would be detrimental to Donald Trump. And in the case of a contested convention, these Cruz supporters that are Trump delegates, and as I said, there were many, many people in Cruz campaign leadership in Georgia and in the districts that are now serving as Trump delegates. So they're going to be going to Cleveland, ignoring the will of the people, thumbing their nose at the voters that cast their ballot for Donald Trump, and systematically working against the candidate that they were pledged to support. And that is the real travesty. I think the system needs to change, or the Georgia Republican Party needs to send a message to voters: you're wasting your time going and voting in our primaries. We don't care what you think. We can have party insiders overturn what the people voted for.
Well, Debbie, let me just say this. So what you're saying is, in Georgia, in Cleveland, the first round they're bound to vote for Trump, but the second round you see the Georgia delegation switching a good portion of their votes to Ted Cruz.
Yeah, I think what you will see is that once these Cruz supporters and Cruz campaign leadership team that were elected as Trump delegates, I mean, you've got to look at the fact that delegates have to support and vote for any rule change. So if Ted Cruz supporters control the delegation, then, you have a lot of Cruz supporters that are, masquerading as Trump delegates. They could go before the voting even takes place and vote to change and propose rules that will be to the detriment of Donald Trump. So just forget even the first round, the fact that it's for first round, they could do damage to Donald Trump by voting for rule changes and rules that negatively impact Donald Trump.
So there was so at the 7th district, because at the 7th district there were no Trump supporters sent as the 3 delegates.
Zero. They were all Cruz supporters or Rubio supporters, and Rubio had a right to have 1 delegate and 1 alternate. Cruz had 0 delegates allotted to him, yet Donald Trump had 2, none. Donald Trump had 0 Trump supporters that are delegates that were elected. 0, none. And like I said, I got up and I said, I tried to let them know because I had heard what was going on in other districts, and I let them know, look, I mean, Trump won this district, and if you exclude Trump supporters as being delegates, that that I was talking and in communication with the National Trump Campaign, and you were putting the delegation at risk of being challenged at the National Convention, and they booed when I said that. Like I said, the Cruz supporters were extremely, extremely rude, and this not only took place, I've received reports. I mean, one Trump supporter that was at the 7th, she posted on Facebook, Debbie Elliott, that she was verbally assaulted just walking to her car by Cruz people.
Well, let me ask you a question. What happens next? You have the state convention. There's 31 at-large delegates at the state convention. What happens next at the state convention? And do you think the RNC is getting involved in these states, and we're just not seeing it?
Well, I don't think it's from the RNC. I think it's from the Republican elitist establishment or getting involved or teaming up with the Cruz campaign. I mean, I think that's definite because even with these district conventions, I mean, the slate that came out of nominating Trump supporters were in most of the district, 11 or 12 of the 14 districts, Trump supporters weren't represented according to the vote. So I absolutely believe that insiders, I don't believe it's RNC, I just think it's the Republican elitists that are teaming up with the Cruz campaign to overturn the will of the people.
Have you heard anything from the Trump campaign?
The Georgia Republican Party rules were a ally for the Cruz campaign, but who, I mean, in a million years would have thought that conservative, somebody that claims to be a constitutional conservative would systematically work to overturn the results of an election because they did not like what's going on. And the Republican Party better beware because in 1986, the Democrats controlled everything in Alabama. And there was a Democrat primary that was very close. You had a winner that was supported by, conservatives and moderates and, all of that in Alabama. His name was Charlie Graddick. And it was contested, and there were court battles, and it was left up to the Democratic Party of Alabama. And they removed the front runner, who was Charlie Graddick, and replaced him. They overturned the results of the Democratic primary. They replaced him on the ticket with, who the Democrat elitist preferred. And that was the beginning of the end for the Democratic Party in Alabama because for the first time since Reconstruction, voters were so outraged that they elected a Republican as governor. His name was Guy Hunt. And now, the Republicans the state. So I fully believe that what's going on with this delegate selection process, I fully and truly believe it is going to hurt the Republican Party and some of the Republican candidates in Georgia that are affiliated with the Cruz campaign.
Well, let me ask you two quick questions because I've got to run this morning, and I appreciate you so much.
Well, I love your show. I mean, you are like a beacon of light
Oh, well,
in
thank
North
you.
Georgia. Everyone should listen to your show. They should read Fetch Your News.
Well, thank you very much. Now, the only thing I'm looking at is that the Cruz campaign did not break rules and the state did not break rules, but they are tapping the delegates for the second round in there. But have you talked to anybody with the Trump campaign? I mean, we've been seeing all the.
Yeah.
You have talked to some people in the Trump
Oh,
campaign?
yeah, I've been in touch with the Trump campaign I know the leadership in the Trump campaign in Georgia. I mean, I've known them for a while. Also in touch with the National Trump campaign. Also Roger Stone as well.
Do you have it? Do you feel that Trump can get to 1237?
Oh, yeah.
And
I think he'll be close enough. I don't know. I mean, I feel positive he will. And I think if he does, there's going to be a lot of people that were part of that whole process that will regret, the attempts to overturn the will of voters. But I don't know. As I said, Brian, the important thing that's being overlooked is that these Cruz supporters masquerading as Trump delegates, they can go and vote to change the rules at the National Convention. So, they have power beyond who they vote for.
I heard
who they vote to nominate.
I heard something on that this morning as far as the rules committee for the RNC this morning. I think Priebus is saying that they're not going to do that, but then again, you have to always keep an eye on those pesky RNC people.
but it's not the RNC. It's when you get, number one, the RNC cannot just arbitrarily set rules for the convention. The delegates have to approve their recommendation.
I understand.
And that is the what he's saying is that the RNC is not going to recommend any rule changes. But again, the delegates have to approve the rules of the Republican National Convention. The delegates that are there have to approve that.
Debbie, I've got to run. I appreciate it. I know you've got a lot of interviews. And read the articles, folks. The articles are on Breitbart. They've been on the Drudge Report. They've been all over the news cycle of what took place in Georgia this past weekend at the local. You will be at the state convention. You will be at the state convention in Augusta, Debbie?
I absolutely will. And I encourage all Trump supporters out there listening to to show up at the state convention and to contact their elected officials and get them on record how they feel about what happened this weekend.
Thank you very much, Debbie. You have a nice day. I know you have a lot of interviews, and thank you for picking.
Thank you. You too, Brian. It's great to be on your show.
Thank you. Okay, we've been talking with Debbie Dooley. Debbie is one of the co-founders of the original Tea Party Patriots and the co-founder of the Atlanta Tea Party. Again, that's Debbie Dooley. We're going to take a brief break, and and when we come back, we're going to have Linda Umberger. Linda Umberger is running for, she's running for National Committee Woman for Georgia. Former Dawson County Republican Party Chair Clary Umberger announced her candidacy for Republican National Committee Woman, which will be elected at the 2016 Georgia Republican State Convention in August. We're going to talk to her. Now, she was at the 9th District, and she was at the 9th District Convention in Georgia. All of our guests this morning were at different conventions, district conventions in Georgia, going to give us an account all around the state of Georgia this morning. We have the most in-depth coverage this morning of this issue, the district conventions from last weekend. I'm your host, BKP. We're going to take a brief break, and when we get back, we'll have our guest on the line.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
Better days ahead. Truck Month is back at your new Days Chevrolet in Jasper with savings up to $8,000 off MSRP. Right now, get a roomy new Chevy Equinox for just $23,200, or get Days max discount on a new Silverado Crew Cab, just $31,900, plus instant easy credit with Days Fast Track Credit Center. But these Truck Month savings won't last long. Get to Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where Chevy cars and trucks cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Save big on service at Schadenkirk. Get a full service oil change for only $29.99. That's right. Get an oil and filter change, tire rotation, brake check, AC check, and multi-point inspection, all for just $29.99.
Give us a shot at Schadenkirk.
Get the $29.99 oil change special at Schadenkirk Ford or any of our convenient locations in the heart of Georgia.
As Bentley says, give us a shot at Schadenkirk.
Online at SchadenkirkAtlanta.com.
Okay, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. We have dedicated this show this morning. You're watching all over the internet. You're seeing it all over the internet. Discussion about the RNC delegates, rigged system from the Trump campaign. There's been a lot of articles this weekend written about the district conventions in Georgia this past weekend and what went on there. So we have dedicated the show. We have 4 guests. Before we get to our next guest, if you'd like to sponsor our show, let us know at 706-889-9700 or send us an email, chief@fetchernews.com. We want to thank Days Chevrolet down in Jasper. Also, Circuit World of Blue Ridge and East Ellijay, that's Circuit World. Promotional code FetcherNews.com. L&L Beanery, your downtown coffee shop in Blue Ridge. Stop at L&L Beanery today. Fresh coffee, free Wi-Fi. I'm now joined with Miss Linda Clary Umberger. Miss Umberger, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am. Glad to be here, Brian.
Oh, we're glad to have you. And you, let me just say a little bit. You are the former Dawson County Republican Party chair, and you've been a little busy out there on the campaign trail for a little while, haven't you?
Yes, I have. It's been an exciting year.
I've seen you in South Carolina. I've seen you all over. Are you at liberty to say what campaigns you were working with? If not, I understand.
Oh, no, because I'm very proud to have been on 2 different teams of part of the great group of men and women we did have running in this presidential cycle on the Republican side. I worked for Carly Fiorina's Super PAC, Carly for America, and then Marco Rubio for president. So very honored and proud to have been part of those 2 teams.
Well, we're glad. I seen the Facebook post up there in South Carolina, but we're glad to have you back in Dawson County right here in the 9th District. You went to the 9th District Convention this past weekend, Georgia 9th District Convention. You attended that?
Yes, I did, in Dillard, Georgia. It was an extremely well-done banquet Friday night. Ron Johnson and his team did a phenomenal job honoring veterans, and it was I was not able to attend because I attended the banquet for the 7th District honoring one of our great Republican women who sadly passed away, Reva Jennings. So that I was not there for the 9th District banquet, but no, they did a great job.
Okay, now on the 9th District, the day of delegate selection and so forth, give us a little rundown of how the nominating committee there for the 9th District, the representation of the counties. Give us a little rundown of what took place.
Well, first of all, it was very clear anyone interested in a delegate spot had to submit their political resume, and then sign up for an interview on Friday, on April 15th. And if you did not do those things, then you were not qualified to be considered as a delegate or alternate. And Ron Johnson was chair of that nominating committee. And so they made a presentation towards the end of the day, Ron Johnson did, of the delegates and the alternates. And it was a one-by-one rather than presented as a slate as has been done in the past. And, all but one alternate delegate spot was challenged, if I remember correctly.
So go ahead.
So anyway, it was a very formal process that was handled well, and anyone who wanted to run could either nominate themselves from the floor or be nominated by someone else from the floor.
But you didn't see any actual rules broken at the district convention.
Oh, absolutely not. In the 9th District, I know. The 9th District, Bruce Acevedo and our other elected officers know the rules extremely well, and no, I absolutely no rules were broken. My only complaint was I do believe we could have been a little more efficient and gotten out of there way before 5 o'clock because I missed my son's first prom because of my choice to be committed to the alternate delegate process. And I'm very disappointed I missed that, but that was a choice I made. Otherwise, everything was great.
Well, let me ask you a question. At the 9th District, the 3 delegates that were chosen, they're obviously committed first round to Donald Trump, but are the 3 delegates from the 9th District, are you aware if they're committed second round to Donald Trump supporters, or Cruz supporters?
No, I'm not aware. In fact, I'm very thankful that I'm not aware. Bruce Acevedo, who is the chair of the district chair of the 9th District, is a delegate. And I am not, I can guess that that's up to him. He's never been vocal or anything like that. Ashley Bell, who did challenge the nominating committee's choice for second delegate, actually won, and that was one of the reasons why I stayed through the end, because I did want to cast my vote for Ashley Bell. Very excited that he is a delegate representing the 9th District. And no, so, and then obviously the other delegate, Carol Mahoney, is 100 and 1,000% behind Ted Cruz, and I am very aware of that, and I believe all of us at the convention were very aware of that, and she made us very aware of that.
Did you see the there's a flyer that's going around that was handed out at some of the conventions that was paid for by the Ted Cruz campaign, that actually said paid for by the Ted Cruz campaign. Please support these slate of delegates today in your selection. Did you see anything like that at the 9th District?
I did. I absolutely did. Mm-hmm. Yes, I did. And Carol was obviously on that list.
So they came out, the Cruz. What did you see? Did you see the Cruz supporters really getting involved, and the Trump supporters, I guess, maybe dropped the ball or were outmaneuvered? I mean, how did you see that?
Well, what I saw is that you have voters who haven't shown up to vote in a while, who showed up to vote for the March 1st primary in Georgia. And they were excited and are excited about their candidate, Donald Trump. Unfortunately, these are not the people who have been showing up throughout the years over and over and over again at their county parties, at the district conventions, the county conventions. So there was an element of lack of knowledge in understanding the process that I don't think the Trump team seemed to be able to effectively communicate with their supporters and their voters. And I know for me, I really want to see us embrace and include these new people who did make the effort to show up to vote. It's a little bit reminiscent of 2012 with Rand Paul. But I just think there was a lack of understanding and communication, and these people are new. They do seem, now I know there are a lot of longtime Republicans who are passionate Trump supporters as well, but there just didn't seem to be a lot of those people at the 9th District Convention, and I don't know why that is, but that was just the case. That was just how it was. Whereas it was very clear there were a lot of Crew supporters there.
Well, you know, the RNC and your state committees, your state RNC are GOP. They have monthly meetings. People don't go, and you do get a small group, and sadly enough, that don't get involved. You get a small group that write rules, and then they go to their district and they present their rules, and everybody votes on them. And then you get, you know, it's a larger group, but it's still a small group that votes on those rules, and then the state. And now you have, you know, 500,000 Trump voters that don't understand. Well, I thought I just voted for my guy, and you go vote for him. And actually, there's a lot of rules within the party, and it's their party, and they're not breaking their rules, although some of us may not like them.
Well, and you're invited to get involved, and everyone is invited to get involved and engaged. And it's up to us as the Republican Party to do whatever we need to do to make the meetings, our things, more inviting and inclusive. But it's also up to everybody to make the time commitment to show up. You got to show up. And I know I'm a member of the state committee. And yeah, there are rules that are voted upon, and anyone can get involved and get engaged, and I would encourage them to do so. But you have to show up. You know, I think we all learn that part of being successful is just showing up. And therefore, I would encourage everyone to participate in the democratic process that we have and to make a difference, because you have to be engaged. You have to interact. You can't just show up and vote and think it's done. That's all part of the process, and that's the most important thing. And we need to get more people voting as well.
Well, Linda, you know, you go out to Colorado. You know, people are upset. They didn't even get a chance to vote for a candidate. The state rules out there. They wrote the rules to where they could just pick their delegates. You have things in Wyoming. Now, I would argue, I'm not against Ted Cruz, but I would argue that if you went to a Cruz supporter today and you went back 6 months in time and you said, hey, would you support Colorado picking a candidate, the slate of delegates to send to the convention without even a vote of the people, they would be outraged. But now the party rules are in favor of them. And my thought is they can't get to the 1237, and they have to work hard for their plan B. So I think they're taking on plan B as strong as they can, and that is getting into the states and being affected at these district conventions and the state conventions. What say you?
I see your point, and I absolutely, it just goes back to we as a party and we as individuals need to do a better job communicating with everyone and making the process transparent, because we have the greatest country in the history of the world that has allowed more people to change things, to provide solutions, whether it's coming up with a Jonas Salk with what he did with the polio vaccine, to changing lives due to providing jobs. And I think we're all concerned that we are losing that. And we are faced very seriously with a Hillary Clinton presidency and, God forbid, a Bernie Sanders presidency.
You had to bring that up this morning.
Yes, I'm sorry. It still goes back to, what are your options here? What are your options? I had the privilege of attending a Georgia Tech College of Engineering Hall of Fame inductee dinner with my dad Saturday night in Atlanta. And what struck me was the young lady, Georgia Tech graduate, 2007, extremely intelligent, successful woman whose father was actually being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And she shared with me that she has been so offended by what has transpired in our cycle with the debates, with the insults to one another, that she is a Republican, but that she will be voting for Hillary Clinton. And this is what concerns me that is at stake, and that we've got a lot of groundwork to recover from. And the more transparent we are and the better job we do between now and November, the better off we are for our country in the future of ourselves as well as our children. So I understand that people don't like the rules. I just would encourage everyone to engage, study the rules, learn about it, and then commit to getting on board in whoever that nominee is. And I do think a vice presidential candidate is going to be critical for whoever the nominee ends up being, that we just put our differences aside and come together, because there is too much at stake.
Linda, let me ask you just a couple brief questions because we have to close. 31 at-large delegates. Can you explain to people what that means will be picked at the state convention? 42 were picked this past weekend, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you have 31 at-large delegates. Tell people what an at-large delegate is.
Well, it goes back to you have to understand the other 42. Each 14 districts have 3 delegates and 3 alternates that are to represent how that specific district voted in the presidential primary. The at-large delegates are people like your state chair, in this case, who is John Pageant, your national committee man, Randy Evans, your national committee woman, Linda Herron, because she will remain the national committee woman until the gravel falls, as well as Randy Evans, the end of the convention in Cleveland. And then you have other people who have been engaged at the state level. It can be an honorary position or somebody who's done something. Your elected officials. If Governor Deal chose to go, more than likely he would be listed in the at-large delegate for the state. And those are voted on at our state convention, which will be June 4th in Augusta, Georgia.
So all of these get voted on at the state convention, or are they just 31 delegates in the pocket of the state RNC that they get to deal out, or is this approved at the state convention?
This is approved at the state convention, and I do want to just point out a distinction. It's the Georgia Republican Party, not the RNC.
Yeah, I apologize.
Distinct entity as the Georgia Republican Party.
Right. Our Republican National Committee, I apologize. It is the state. It is the Georgia State Republican Party. I keep saying RNC because Reince Priebus has been on TV 19 times a day, and I can't get it out of my head because I keep hearing that.
Sorry, that's funny.
So I guess he's done more than anything. 1 minute left here. We're going to get you in here real soon and talk to you before you head down to the convention in June. We're going to get you in here. You're seeking the seat of the 2016 Georgia Republican State Convention as the Republican National Committee woman. What is that? Explain to people what that is.
That is Georgia's representative. Each state and territory have 3 people that are part of the RNC. It is your state chair, your national committee man, and your national committee woman. In Georgia, we have term limits on those people, 3 terms, so that we constantly have a fresh turnover. Linda Herron is term limited, and unfortunately, Vicki Willard had to withdraw at the last minute, and so I was asked if I would not consider jumping in at the last minute to run. And so after much consultation and prayer, I decided to throw my hat in the ring actually 12 days ago from today. And the RNC is responsible for leadership, branding of the Republican Party, as well as the rules of the presidential primary selection and funding. Those are the most important things that the RNC is responsible for. And each RNC member is part of a committee, whether it be the rules. We have the most amazing man, Randy Evans, who's part of the Rules Committee, who is providing tremendous leadership at that level, representing Georgia. Linda Herron has been on the Budget Committee, which is very important when you look at how much money Georgia or any state gets going into a general election. And it's actually her legacy that I would like to continue being part of the Budget Committee when I'm elected. And that is in a nutshell. And I also, it's more, Brian, at the end of the day, it's going to the grassroots and saying, what can I do? What do you need from us to be successful? Because the grassroots is the key. The grassroots is where everything happens. It's the people who knock on doors. It's the people who are in their communities and understand what's going on and what the needs are. And too often we take a top-down approach, and it's just imperative that we do from the bottom up, because if you look at successful corporations, businesses, it is from the bottom up. And that's why I'm running.
Okay,
you can go to linda2016.gop and learn more.
Last question. Have you endorsed a candidate yet?
Absolutely not. I am endorsing the Republican nominee 110%.
Oh, so I had to ask that. I had to do that. But you will support the nominee that comes out of Cleveland?
Absolutely, 110%. I look forward to knocking on doors. I look forward to making phone calls. I look forward to sending texts, social media, everything.
Anybody but Hillary. I don't care if we elect your baker down the street, your the guy that runs the deli on the corner. Anybody
Absolutely.
But
It's the no Bernie, no Hillary train.
There you go. Hey, thank you very much, Linda. You have a great day, and we're going to get you back on here real soon to get some more details on the state convention and what you're running for. And I appreciate you so much for being with us.
Enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye.
We've been on the phone with Linda Clary Umberger. Linda worked for the Carly Farina Super PAC, Carly for America. She worked there in South Carolina, and then she worked for the Marco Rubio for President campaign before returning back to Dawsonville, Georgia, and she was at the 9th District. And we're trying to get a well-balanced look across the state. And what I'm hearing this morning is no rules have been broken at the convention, but Cruz seems to have set himself up quite well for round 2 in Cleveland for Georgia, if necessary, if it comes to that. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to take a brief break. When I come back, Todd Rehm from Georgia Pundit is going to be on the line with me. And we're going to talk about the 6th District, and he's going to probably have some more insight to the rules and what exactly took place this weekend and what comes next. So we're going to take a brief break, and I'll be back. Your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. Before we do, let me also thank some more of our sponsors. Salon 84 Hair and Color, located at West Church Street in Jasper. Make an appointment today, 706-253-9876. That's Salon 84 Hair and Color, located at West Church Street in Jasper. 706-253-9876. Clock Tower Gifts and Boutique right there in downtown Jasper. Also, Schottenkirk Ford wants to invite you to come meet their new management team. Come by and visit and check out all the great deals at Schottenkirk Ford in Jasper right there on 515. Also, they have a special invitation. Join Schottenkirk Ford and Jasper team for their monthly customer appreciation barbecue, featuring food, live music, and giveaways, free giveaways on Sunday, April 24th from 12 to 6 at Schottenkirk Ford in Jasper, right there on 515. We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, we'll have Todd Rehm on the line with us from Georgia Pundit, and he was at the 6th District Convention here in Georgia. We'll be back after these messages. Lonnie, take us a break.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
Better days ahead.
Truck Month is back at your new Days Chevrolet in Jasper with savings up to $8,000 off MSRP. Right now, get a roomy new Chevy Equinox for just $23,200, or get Days max discount on a new Silverado Crew Cab, just $31,900, plus instant easy credit with Days Fast Track Credit Center. But these Truck Month savings won't last long. Get to Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where Chevy cars and trucks cost less.
Better days ahead. Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Save big on service at Schadenkirk. Get a full service oil change for only $29.99. That's right. Get an oil and filter change, tire rotation, brake check, AC check, and multi-point inspection, all for just $29.99.
Give us a shot at Schadenkirk.
Get the $29.99 oil change special at Schadenkirk Ford or any of our convenient locations in the heart of Georgia.
As Bentley says, give us a shot at Schadenkirk.
Online at SchadenkirkAtlanta.com.
Hey, and we're back. I'm BKP. Good morning from the office. North Georgia's only live online morning show. We have dedicated this morning to the Georgia District, Republican District Convention. We've seen national news broadcast on this. We've seen it on the Drudge Report, Breitbart. We've heard Donald Trump talk about a rigged RNC system, and they better get a handle on it. Or it's going to be a long July. A lot of reports coming out of Georgia this weekend about how the conventions were run and the delegates that were chosen for Cleveland and what are some of the facts that have really taken place. My next guest, Todd Rehm, Georgia pundit, Todd Rehm, is with me, and I'm pretty sure he was at the 6th District. Todd, are you with us?
I am, Brian. Happy to be here today.
Thank you very much. Now, you attended the 6th, now you're Georgia Pundit, right? GeorgiaPundit.com?
GeorgiaPundit.com. I did attend the 6th District. Due to the limitations of space and time, I could only make one of the districts. But I also went to the 7th District dinner. They had a dinner honoring Reba Jennings and Joan Zellner the night before, and that was a great event as well.
Well, let me ask you about the 6th District, and I want to drill down. I've been talking all morning. I've talked to someone out of the 9th District, Linda Umberger, and I talked to Debbie Dooley out of the 7th District, and you were at the 6th. What did you see from the actual Rules Committee, the nominating committee, how the process went, how the Georgia Republican Party, how was that district? How were things handled there? as far as the process?
Well, first I would say that this is the first time in my political career, which spans some 20 years, that people have shown a real abiding interest in the rules of the Republican Party at every level.
Thank you.
And let me start the night before. Friday night at the 7th District, Randy Evans, who is our state's Republican National Committee man, gave about a 20-minute talk about the upcoming convention and the rules governing stuff from the state and the RNC level. I'm working on getting a transcription of that because it was a fascinating discussion. Randy then, and Randy is, as long as I can remember, he's been the convention chair wielding the gavel at the state conventions. So he's probably the person best versed in the rules. Randy was our convention chair in the 6th District, and it was interesting that immediately upon him gaveling us to order, one of the first orders of business was the Rules Committee, and there were challenges to the rules. There were 3 specific rules of the convention that were challenged, 3 rules that put significant discretion in the part of the chair, such as giving him the ability to determine on a voice vote which side won on the resolution. And so my experience with Randy is that he is conscientious about being fair and open when he chairs one of these conventions, and he's conscientious about letting people have their say while still keeping everything moving along. Then we had a motion to amend the motion to amend, and by that point I was confused at what was going on. The irony is, without somebody as experienced in the rules as Randy Evans, most of us wouldn't have known what was going on, and he kind of explained it, and that was quickly voted down. But all in all, it was relatively routine. We then had a nominating committee report, and it was decided not to adopt all of the nominating committee report recommendations, and so we went into a slot by slot voting on alternates and delegates from the 6th District to the Republican National Committee.
Well, let me ask you a question now. Did you see, and this has been going around the internet, did you see the actual flyer that was paid for by the Ted Cruz campaign that had a list of delegates that they were encouraging people to support at the 6th District Saturday?
I didn't see it, and,
Okay.
and I was looking for one.
Okay.
I did see the one from the 3rd District. I was looking for one, but if you were a Cruz person and your goal was to vote against Trump people, the Trump candidates for alternate and delegate, they pretty well identified themselves. And some of the Cruz folks, some folks identified themselves as being in their heart of hearts a Cruz supporter.
So in the 6th District, the delegates that were chosen are you aware if they're Cruz supporters or Trump supporters or any other candidate?
I would say that I know for a fact that there was at least one Trump supporter. Bruce Lavelle has been very outspoken in favor of Donald Trump. What set him apart from some of the other Trump supporters running for those slots was that he actually has got a long history of working in the Republican Party. He was previously Gwinnett County Republican Party chair, and so when the dynamic is that you have a lot of Trump people who are new to the process, I think they're at a disadvantage. But when you have a Trump supporter who has, paid his dues, so to speak, in the party, that part of that disadvantage goes away. But you couldn't have really had much question who the Trump people were. Michael Opitz, who also has a long history in the Republican Party, but Michael Opitz wore a "Make America Great" cap when he gave his speech, and so you couldn't question where his loyalties were.
Well, let me ask you, Todd. Now I'm hearing conflicting stories. The delegates that were chosen this past weekend, they are bound to Trump in the first round. Are they released after the first round by Georgia state rules?
Actually, let me say something. They are bound 2 for Trump and 1 for Rubio in the 6th district.
Okay.
And as far as the Georgia State Party rules, the Georgia State Party rules say that delegates are bound for the first ballot. Now, some other folks, and so I believe that's what determines it. My belief is that they are bound for 1 ballot and 1 ballot only. Randy Evans, whom I respect, who has a great command of the rules, disagrees because there is a state statute that says that delegates to a national convention are bound for 2 votes. But if you look at the RNC rules say that when determining the binding of delegates and alternates, you look first to state party rules, which is where that 1 ballot that I think is the rule comes from. Then it says if there is no applicable state party rule, then state law applies. And so I think under the rules of the Republican National Convention, they're bound for one ballot only. And a good argument can be made either way on that.
Todd, do you think the Cruz campaign just did a better job researching state rules and seeing what they had to do to secure second round, and that they just outmaneuvered the Trump campaign this past weekend in Georgia, and there's a little bit of sour grapes, and the Trump campaign's doing a little whining over something that they could have done themselves?
There are 3 things going on. One is exactly what you described. I think that the Cruz campaign did a better job of understanding the rules and organizing. It's like they're playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers at best. The second thing I think happened is that despite, whether an individual was a Trump person or a Cruz person, I don't think that was as important in determining who got the delegate and alternate slots. I just published this morning a list of all of the alternates and delegates, and if you look through it, you'll see that almost every district chairman was elected a delegate or an alternate, and that a very large number of the folks who were elected delegate or alternate have 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 years in the party. They've got a long list of titles from guy who runs the copying machine to party chairman. In fact, our Alec Poitevin, who has been a Republican National Committeeman and chaired the entire Georgia Republican Party, was one of the delegates selected. So experience and dues paying was a major factor, and the people who have the experience and the dues to move forward under that dynamic are primarily not going to be Trump people, in my experience. And the third thing that was going on, and I'm speaking specifically about the 7th district, where a Cruz delegate who was nominated by the nominating committee was rejected, is some of it's just personality. I saw several people who were at the 7th district talking about, Debbie Dooley not being elected was more about Debbie Dooley than it was about Donald Trump or Ted Cruz. And so when you get to the district party, when you're talking about county parties, it's a very small world, and personal conflicts or personal allegiances can play in as much as anything else.
Well, Todd, I have said that, first of all, you made a very valid point when we opened up, and I said thank you because, it's about time that people actually are realizing there's a set of rules. And maybe that, and they're actually looking at rules throughout the state, and it's actually getting media and news, which, the opposite side is that may be a great thing that the people may be waking up and saying, hey, I went and voted and I thought I'd go vote and there I'm done. But no, there's this whole process of several different steps that are going to happen between now and Cleveland that I was never aware of. So this could be, in a roundabout way, a very good positive for the for the country in a whole to see the inner workings of these parties.
And if you look at it in the context of American government and American history, it is not unlike the Electoral College system or the Congress itself. We don't do things more, generally speaking, in the United States, we don't do things by direct vote. We do things much more through the Republican form of electing delegates or alternates or congressmen or senators to go cast votes on our behalf. And so this is well within the mainstream of American politics. Constitutional amendments. We don't, generally speaking, vote directly on constitutional amendments. So it's an interesting history lesson for a lot of folks, but I think folks who entered this process because they were angry are not necessarily going to be quite as reflective to say, gosh, maybe I should learn more about next time, when there is a large part of the candidacies that revolve around making people angry and keeping them angry. That's what a lot of politics has come to these days.
Well, let me ask you two more questions because I know you have to run for another interview you have lined up this morning. Two things. One, I think the Northeast is going to be very favorable to Donald Trump. I think California could be very favorable. So I don't see a clear path of 1237 for Ted Cruz. Donald Trump still has that possibility, but it is shrinking daily. So I don't see a clear path at 1237 for Ted Cruz. So this is about the best plan B a candidate could ever put together, is making sure that they were strong within the states with the delegates. So would you say that Cruz has done a very good job, the campaign this past weekend, of setting Georgia up in Cleveland as a good round two vote for Ted Cruz?
Yeah, I think it's about as strong as he could have come out of it. It was not a clean sweep like you're seeing in some of the other states. Trump did get some supporters. There is the question. I've stated my opinion. Other folks have stated theirs. There's the question open whether Georgia delegates are bound by one ballot or two ballots. But it's as good a plan B as I've ever seen. Most candidates for any office never develop a plan B. They have a plan, and that's it. And so it's been a very interesting lesson in electoral politics, even for those of us who thought we had seen everything.
We've seen it. It's been a long time since we've seen a candidate put a strong plan B in place for their nomination, because in the past, the front runner was it had been clinched or well on its way by now, and nobody contested it. Let me close up because you're leaving here. You post on Georgia Pundit. That's your website, georgiapundit.com. And is this where everybody can find what you have released this morning as far as that information?
That's it. I also send it out by email, and so a lot of folks will be receiving it in their email boxes in the next 15 to 20 minutes.
Well, I'm sorry, Todd. I'm on to the more important things because I'm looking at Teddy, and I go on a daily basis. We don't get a chance to talk, but I go on a daily basis and I look at all the dogs, and I'm checking out Lion Ted right now. the little Chihuahua, and not lion, Ted, the little Chihuahua, but the dogs. Tell me just a minute about that and your passion for that. I follow you all the time. We are fetchernews.com, so if you guess, we kind of like our dogs, and my wife and I participate in every dog rescue we can.
So I started out the website, and part of what I was doing initially was I'd post a couple of adoptable dogs. And just because that's something I'm interested in, I thought it was a nice way to kind of spread the word about some of these dogs that need homes. But over the years, that has become probably the most popular part of the website. There's 3 to 5 dogs every day, adoptable from a rescue or a shelter. We try to make sure that we hit every part of the state over time. So we've got dogs from Savannah, we've got dogs from the northwest corner. Everywhere in Georgia will get their chance, and we just find that folks have responded to that, and I think we have helped save 30 to 40 dogs a year for the last couple of years just by raising awareness, and that's something a lot of folks don't think about. If you have a Twitter handle that a bunch of people follow, or if you're on Facebook a lot, sharing adoptable dogs, letting folks know that if you want a dog, whatever kind of dog you want, you can find one in the shelter and save their life, has been one of the most rewarding things I've done in politics or related to politics.
I can see that, Todd. I look at them daily. I actually do. I look at them daily, and again, we get involved every way we can. And Facebook will come up and tell you your number one published post or whatever that's trending the best or whatever, and we do a dog of the day, and I would like for it to be my show, but it's the dog of the it's the dog of the day that trends the best every day. So
well, and I think that's true across platforms, because you'll see a lot of radio stations, a lot of newspapers featuring adoptable dogs because people respond to that.
Okay, state convention is coming up. Will you be down at the state convention down there?
I am planning on being there for the whole show, and then I'm going to Cleveland whether I'm a delegate or not. I'm not sure if I'll even run for delegate, but my mother and my grandmother live up there, and it's about time I keep being told to go visit them again. So I'll be in Cleveland as well.
Well, Todd,
and later this week, I'll be going to Florida for the Republican National Convention meeting, which has, I believe, the last Rules Committee meeting before the National Convention.
Well, through the whole thing, from the National Rules Convention meeting down in Florida to the state convention in Georgia to Cleveland, we would like to invite you back at any time to give us these brief reports, and we'd appreciate if you'll come back again throughout all of it and let us know what you see on the ground there.
I'd love to. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Thank you, Todd. I know you have to move on. I appreciate it. That is Todd Rehm that's been with us this morning. He is the, you can go to georgiapundit.com, georgiapundit.com, and if you can get past those beautiful adoptable dogs, he is posting all kinds of things, and Todd follows everything throughout the state when it comes to politics. You can count on him being there. And what I call giving me a balanced view of what's going on. I mean, we do get, some sides get emotional this way and some side, and for good reason. And I think if you know your host here, I've got no problem with people getting emotional, because I do. I get passionate about views and passionate about things. So we understand people get emotional about it, but I like to bring it to a balance, see what's going on out there, and Todd helps me do that. We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, we're going to have Jeanne Seaver. Jeanne Seaver is, now we're going to go all the way to the 1st District. Now, Jeanne Seaver was on the Donald Trump campaign. She actually was paid staff. She was on the Donald Trump campaign in Georgia and part of his staff. She was from she's in the 1st District. We're going all the way down to Jack Kingston country down there in Savannah. So we've crisscrossed the state. We've been in the 6th District, the 9th District, We've been in the, where else have we been? 7th district. Now we're going to go all the way down to the 1st district. I want to say thank you. I do know somebody has called in and text on a report for the 14th district. We tried to set this up yesterday. I don't know if we'll have time. We'd love to do that. And we want to know, we have not picked out certain supporters. We did try to pick out Crew supporters, but everybody we're talking to this morning did attend. So we've not slated it. We've tried to balance this out for Cruz and Donald Trump in the state of Georgia, but everybody did attend a district convention this weekend. So we'll be back after these brief messages with my next guest, Jeanne Seaver, down in District 1 in Savannah. Lonnie, take us to break.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
Better days ahead.
Truck Month is back at your new Days Chevrolet in Jasper with savings up to $8,000 off MSRP. Right now, get a roomy new Chevy Equinox for just $23,200, or get Days max discount on a new Silverado Crew Cab, just $31,900, plus instant easy credit with Days Fast Track Credit Center. But these Truck Month savings won't last long. Get to Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where Chevy cars and trucks cost less.
Better days ahead. Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Save big on service at Schadenkirk. Get a full service oil change for only $29.99. That's right. Get an oil and filter change, tire rotation, brake check, AC check, and multi-point inspection, all for just $29.99.
Give us a shot at Schadenkirk.
Get the $29.99 oil change special at Schadenkirk Ford or any of our convenient locations in the heart of Georgia.
As Bentley says, give us a shot at Schadenkirk.
Online at SchadenkirkAtlanta.com.
Hey, and we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. We have dedicated this Monday morning to the state, the Republican State Convention here in Georgia. A lot of national news has been made about delegates, about how state conventions have been run, or district conventions going into the state. Before we get our next guest on here, just want to mention a couple more of our sponsors. 1907 Restaurant, located off the square in Ellijay. Great place to have lunch. UPS Store over in East Ellijay. North Georgia Diamond, located in the East Ellijay Walmart Shopping Center. Go over there and meet Bill and Allison Craig, your new best friends when you walk in at North Georgia Diamond. Promotional code FetchYourNews.com. Now, my next guest is in the 1st District. We're going all the way down to Savannah here. On the phone with me now is Jeanne Seaver. Jeanne, how are you today?
I'm great, Brian. How are you? Thank you for having me on your show. We appreciate it. Sometimes we get slighted down here in Southeast Georgia, and we appreciate you thinking of us.
Well, you know what? I enjoy. We're humbled here at FetchYourNews.com because we find out on a daily basis. You know, we're coming out of a little office here in Ellijay, Georgia, but we've got viewers from South Georgia, and I've got a. Just so you know, and I'll tell you this: you ever wondering myself if somebody's listening? I got a text message from Missouri this morning. From Missouri, that somebody says enjoying watching the show from Missouri. Excellent picture quality this morning, and they're interested in the delegates out in Missouri. So I got a couple of viewers out there. Really quick, now just to let people know, Jeanne, you did work for the Donald Trump campaign. You were on staff.
Brian, I was actually hired in mid-November by the Trump National Campaign, and I was actually went off the payroll on March 31st. We basically, I was a grassroots coordinator and one of the coalition builders in the state of Georgia. And after we accomplished our goals in Georgia, we were asked to go down to Florida, and we helped accomplish the goals in Florida. And after that, Mr. Trump's running a shoestring budget. And so I officially came off the payroll on March 31st, yes.
Well, let me ask you a question. Now, you attended the Georgia 1st District convention down there in Savannah this past weekend?
Yes, sir, I did.
And
I was actually a delegate selected.
You were a selected delegate. But now, this quote this morning, and I know just in fairness and transparency to our viewers, you and I had a conversation last night. This quote this morning in the Breitbart article that you're named in, it says, this is not an isolated incident. I spoke to Jeanne Seaver, and the grassroots coordinator on the Trump campaign, and it says she was kicked off being a delegate and replaced with an 18-year-old kid right out of high school because he was a Cruz supporter, and there was nothing she could do because the committee was just banging their gavels, shutting down dissent. Could you elaborate a little bit on what that means?
Well, basically, first of all, I never had spoken to Breitbart prior to that. During that interview, for one, I had spoken with Thomas Dean. Thomas Dean was a volunteer and a very hardworking volunteer that had spoken with Breitbart. I had a conversation with Thomas, and we were talking about what had gone down in the 1st Congressional District. And I had William Carter, who was a young man. He's a high school senior at Benedictine Military School. And he had reached out to me and asked me that he wasn't familiar with the system, because I had sent my information out asking for votes. And he called me up and asked me if I would please give him a call and educate him a little bit on the system. He was new to the system, and I gladly did. And but at the convention, first of all, I'd like to make the comment and recognize these people: Bobby Chestnut, Don Malin, Casey Taylor Rolanini, Roy Lynch, for actually putting themselves out there to run as delegates in the 1st Congressional District. They were all Trump supporters. Two of them, that when the slate came out of the nominating committee, there were 3 delegates that all supported Mr. Trump selected. And there were 3 alternates selected from the Cruz supporters. And two of the delegates that were selected was Casey and Roy Lynch, who both served in our military. And as we all know, the 1st Congressional District is has military presence, and we were very honored to have 2 of our veterans stand up and stand up for Mr. Trump and put themselves out there. And what was very disappointing wholeheartedly was Casey and Roy Lynch. And like I said, I wanted to recognize all of them for putting themselves, Bobby Chestnut and Don. But there was discussions from the Cruz supporters that basically said that because you're military, that shouldn't be considered as a qualification to become a delegate. So I was very, very disheartened to hear that. And there were a lot of Trump people that were not fairly treated at that convention. It wasn't very organized. Credentials didn't even have the list from the state. I spoke with the chairman, Jeremy Spencer. They were going down. They were going by each county, going to each county chairman and ask them for the delegate strength for their counties. And I had requested to go ahead and get a list from the state, and they eventually did, and they gave it to us. That was very disappointing. There were no rules submitted to the attendees of the convention to anyone. No one really even, I talked to the chairman of the Rules Committee, and he didn't even have a copy. He did have one piece of paper, but nobody had, and that was very disappointing. The other thing that happened at the convention was that any convention, I have been a long time activist. My grandfather was was George Wallace's right-hand man, but this wasn't about me. But I have paid my dues, and I have a long history of activism all through my life. Especially, I've attended every single county, district, and state convention since 2000. Got several candidates elected, ran for Congress, and so we talk about. I heard Todd talking about. A lot of the delegates that were selected were the ones that had the experience and were paying their dues. And I have the utmost respect for William Carter, and I think he's a magnificent young man. And I had received a call from him also to say that he really appreciated me reaching out to him with someone with my experience and my knowledge, and that he would support me. And then he was actually nominated from the floor. And I was defeated by the first count. There was one vote we were off, and then the second count went out, and I lost by 8 votes. So I do respect him, and I give him kudos, and we need more young people in our party. And I was thrilled to have him be a part of it. The poor guy, he got lost on the way down the convention, and he called me up and he says, "Miss Seaver, can you help me? I got lost. I can't find the convention location." So I helped guide him through it. But I want to make it perfectly clear. I have the utmost respect for Mr. Carter. And I did receive a phone call for him that he was very... it was pretty condescending and disrespectful, the way that he made accusations at me. And but it is what it is, and I wanted to make that perfectly clear. But I just want to remind the voters that in the 1st Congressional District, Brian, 86,616 votes were cast. Out of that, 35,000 were casted in support of Donald Trump. His voice and the voters of the 1st Congressional District spoke. Mr. Cruz did not win one county in the whole 159 counties in Georgia. So myself and all the other delegates that put themselves out there that weren't treated very well came out clearly that they were supporter of Mr. Trump, and had committed to voting every single time at the National Committee for Mr. Trump.
Well, let me ask you a quick question, though. I want to go off something that you just said. 159 counties Cruz did not win a single one, but I mean, let me ask you a question. Did his campaign, they checked out the rules in Georgia, and did you see the rules broken Saturday? I mean, like, I understand, I'm with you 100% as far as, it's a shame that people go vote, and now the second ballot, people can be free to vote for Ted Cruz. But that being said, the Cruz campaign, did they break rules Saturday that you've seen, other than just being upset, and don't take that wrong, about the process?
Absolutely. There's a couple things that I would question. The nominating committee came out and presented their slate, and it was unanimous, the slate, by all the members on the nominating committee. And then when the nominations were accepted, the recommendation of the nominating committee was accepted, then it was put into records that that it was accepted. And of course, like, I didn't want to be redundant because I was listening to a show about everybody. It was delegate by delegate. But you have someone actually, Sharina Arrington, who was actually on the nominating committee. She was nominating Cruz supporters from the floor. So I'm not sure. I have to do a little bit more research on that. But if you're a member of the nominating committee and you unanimously come out and support the slate from the nominating committee, should that be happening? Number two, one of the incidents that happened was whenever they went they voted on delegate by delegate, and then they presented nominations from the floor. One of the things that happened was someone had stood up and had requested to go ahead and vote delegate by delegate at that time, one at a time, and not wait and go through the whole process, find out who the two candidates are, or whoever 3 or 4 candidates are. They wanted to, so that person that was voted out might have another opportunity to be able to run again as another delegate or another alternate. And so they said, absolutely not, that's against the rules. But at the same time, after the nominating committee had accepted the convention had accepted the slate that was presented, let's say, for instance, Kay Godwin was presented in the slate as a alternate to the convention. Well, she also was given an opportunity after to basically resign as an alternate to the National Convention, and then was nominated from the floor as a as the third delegate to the National Convention. And she ousted one of our veterans, which, it's like, I feel, I'd have to go back. WTOC was there, and they videotaped the whole 95% of the convention. So I would highly recommend that everyone go and request a tape from that WTOC. It's a local television station here, and watch the video to watch exactly what happened at the first congressional district convention. But that seems to be a violation of the rules. It's like a Trump supporter stands up and makes these comments, but then it's allowed for a true, a Cruz supporter to be eligible, and she is the grassroots coordinator for the Cruz campaign as a volunteer, and I have all the respect for Kay Godwin, and Kay Godwin has been to 4 national conventions where a lot of these, Trump delegates and alternates were new to the system, but they were committed to Mr. Trump and felt like they had the right to be the voice of the people of the first congressional district. And I commend every single one of them. But those are some things that I'm going to be looking into further that I think wasn't quite on the up and up. And it was very disappointing, again, as I say, for two of our military, ones that served our veterans, wasn't even considered as a qualification in some crew supporters' eyes.
Well, let me ask you a couple quick questions because I'm bumping up on time, Jeanne,
Yes,
and
sir.
I appreciate it, but I want to get a couple questions here. Now, you were with the Trump campaign during the primary here in Georgia. Were there not any discussions within the campaign of, hey, you know what, guys, I know the system here, I know the rules, I've paid my dues. When we're done and we win and we leave town, there's still work to be done. What's Plan B? Because what I'm hearing here is what I'm thinking is, was that never talked about in the Trump campaign? And like, what's Plan B? Should we look to make sure that we're securing the delegates? This could take place because that is one of the biggest criticisms that's taken place in the Trump campaign right now. Is they've had a year to know that this was happening.
Well, there was a lot of focus on, getting Mr. Trump elected in the state of Georgia, and that was our focus. And that was the focus and the voice of the people, which was very clearly stated by the, the 41%. I'm sorry, it was the 30, I think it was 39%. 502,000 votes. As a matter of fact, Mr. Trump got more votes than Newt Gingrich. Mr. Trump received nearly 80,000 more votes than Newt Gingrich got in 2012. So how to answer that question, the voice of the people, that was the understanding. Was there, I am going to say that there were people in this that were behind Mr. Trump that had never been ever involved in a campaign before. And were there lessons to learn and things to be taught and educated to those voters? Absolutely. But the bottom line is, Brian, it was clearly stated. And the delegates, and I understand the rules, and I believe that the rules should be considered to be changed because the voice of the people matters. The silent majority of the people, that is the biggest. I've been a grassroots activist, Brian, for many, many years. I've sat back and listened to the voice of the people, and the people feel like their voice isn't being heard. But the voices were heard, and the only way we explain to them how you can make a difference is you go to the ballot box and you cast your vote. That is the only way you can change things. And so they did go to the polls, Brian, and they voted. And they wholeheartedly, Mr. Trump fairly and squarely won the state of Georgia.
But these delegates are bound for round one. They're bound for round one to vote for Trump, but not round two, correct?
Yes, sir. That is my understanding.
And another thing. Now, obviously, it narrows, but Trump is still the only candidate that could possibly secure the 1237 needed. Cruz cannot. He doesn't have a path to do this. So, I mean, their campaign is putting together their Plan B. And would you say in Georgia itself, in Cleveland, if it's contested, Cruz is sitting pretty good on Plan B in Georgia with delegates?
I would say absolutely, Mr. Cruz probably. Like I said, I mean, who knows what rules could be changed when you go to the convention? Yes, and as a matter of fact, one of the other things I wanted to bring up was, and it was stated at the convention, that every delegate and alternate that was appointed and nominated and selected were supposed to be were obligated before they left the convention, that they were supposed to sign the pledge that they would cast their vote, the first vote, for Mr. Trump. And those pledges were never even, they weren't even. No one even had one of those forms at the convention.
So you
those
didn't see
have-
the delegate pledges signed.
No, the pledges. I've been told that the pledges have not been even signed, and they were supposed to be signed at the convention.
Well, Jeannie, I've only got 9 minutes before my show wraps up. I got a couple final things, and I can't say how much. I wish we had more time, but that just means we're not saying goodbye. We're saying we'll have you back on real soon.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. We really appreciate all you do to help get the voice of the people.
The only thing I'm asking for, the only rules on this show is you go tell your friends about us.
Okay, I will. And thank you so much. We appreciate it. And God bless you. And
Thank
all
you very
Georgia.
much. That was Jeanne Seaver down in the 1st District. And that is what we've dedicated the show. Jeanne Seaver is in the 1st District down there. She did work in the Trump campaign. She no longer is employed by the Trump campaign, but she was in the 1st District. So we've tried to balance the state, folks, and talk about this. Now, there's 2 things. Lonnie, did you get that email I sent you that says Trump kids? Look at the email and see if you can put that picture in and see if you can put that over my shoulder. It says Trump kids. Okay, let me know when you have that. Folks, let me wrap up this morning by saying, Cruz had to put together a plan B. He doesn't have a pathway, okay? He doesn't have a pathway. He had to put together a plan B. And I'm going to explain this picture over my right shoulder that Lonnie, you have that up, Lonnie?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to explain this over my right shoulder. But sometimes I get accused of maybe liking politics a little too much or getting a little too involved with politics or maybe a little too opinionated when it comes to politics. But I get it honestly. Now, there's 2 things I want to show you. There's a picture, and I call it Trump kids, and you're going to see 5 kids putting together Trump yard signs. Folks, those are my 5 nieces and nephews in Pennsylvania. They are in Pennsylvania. That's how early we train the family. That's it. Now, if you can see the picture of the little boy, he's about 7. I think he's 7 now. I think he is. And his head's only sticking over a Trump sign. Trust me, that was my son that is now 31 years old. That was my son at that time. And that was me before him. That's how many generations that we have put together yard signs. We have gone out and campaigned. This is a very political family. We have I don't know another family. I swear, being a little biased here, that is more political. But look at those kids putting those signs together. Now that is in Pennsylvania, and that is in a very liberal district. That is in the Lehigh Valley district. It's a very liberal district. They're all supporting Trump. You can see the kids. The little guy there, he's only 7 years old, putting his Trump yard signs together. But I want to end the show this morning with something that's important to me, and I want to explain something about the Republican Party, and I hope you're all with me, and I want to explain this, and I want to set this up. This is my oldest sister. Her name is Lee. We'll leave it at that. We'll just call her Lee. And she has been in the Republican Party. Now, there's people that go vote Republican. If you're out there listening this morning, there's people that go vote Republican and they go home. But then there's people that go to the meeting every month, and there's people that write the rules, and there's people that put out the yard signs. That's why I showed you the yard signs. There's people that put out the yard signs. There's people that go and do door knocking and set up door knocking to go do that. There's people that set up volunteers for the Republican Party in their district. They're the workers. And you know who you are out there, and you know those kind of people. This is Lee. Lee has never just been a voter. She has been in the Republican Party, okay? Hardcore. So here is something that she wrote, because she has been asked why she's supporting Donald Trump. Now, this is a very liberal community she's in, and this is what she wrote. I'm asked why I support Donald Trump. For the last 23 years, I have held an elected position in the Republican Party. During those years, I worked feverishly to get conservative Republicans elected, which I am still doing. I am currently vice chair of the Northampton County Republican Committee. However, too many times candidates got elected and then went down the establishment and moderate road. Worse yet, they completely forgot who helped them get elected or even what their campaign was about. Recently, a committee member, now listen close, recently at a committee meeting, one of the elected officials said, we cannot vote right or we will lose our jobs. That night I realized I'm volunteering just to get candidates jobs. They will not do what it takes to move the country in the right direction. I am pro-life, NRA member, a strong fiscal conservative, but I cannot strictly use the ideology at this time. Of course, I am more in line with Cruz, but this election is about a man who can break up Washington and the media. I must be willing to cast aside politicians and lawyers. Now, let me give you a little brief on this. She must be able to cast aside politicians and lawyers. Little side note, her husband is an attorney, so she's not casting aside her attorney husband, but she said, I must be able to cast aside politicians and lawyers and do what is needed to turn this country around. Yes, a builder, developer. Yes, I think the medicine needed right now is someone who could get the job done, the doer. No more conservative speak, but a guy who deals in real. Please do not tell me where Trump stands on the issues, because it does not matter. Conservatives, please stop debating the issues and go elect a guy that can take the ball all the way down the field and not just 5 yards. Look, folks, if you knew who this was coming from, this is the Republican of all Republicans. I have never seen anybody. She has worked so hard to get Charlie Dent. Now, if you know this liberal weasel, Charlie Dent, that is a Congressman Charlie Dent, he's very liberal. She's worked to help him get elected. She's worked to help get Pat Toomey elected. She helped to Senate Rick Santorum elected. This person has beat the pavement, and she's tired of it. She's tired of hearing moving the ball 5 foot down the field every time, or we'll take 10 yards. They want a touchdown. People want a touchdown. They want it now. They don't want to talk about all these issues. They don't want to hear all the conservative in their head all the time what's going on, and it's time to get these people out of the way. So I just thought I would share that. You still got the Trump kids up? I can put it back up. Those are the Trump kids. Those are the Trump kids in Pennsylvania. Gives you a little background of what BKP here, how things were when I was growing up. Hey, take that picture down. Let's wrap this up. Mattress Overstock. Go see Gary Richard Rhonda and the Mattress Lady for the best mattress at the best price. They truly want to help you sleep better. Check them out in the East LJ Walmart Shopping Center. Promotional code FetchYourNews.com. LJ Fitness, 379 River Street, LJ. WebWorks Lawn Care, locally owned, reliable service. Just call Justin Webb. He's ready to work for you. Just give him a call at 706-889-4893. He does mowing, trimming, leaf blowing, edging, cleanup, and much more. Give him a call for a free estimate today. Messier's Orchard up in Fannin County, and also Blue Ridge, Ace Hardware, and Amish Furniture. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. Don't leave us now. Stay tuned after these brief messages. Stay tuned for the morning report with Kevin Hensley, North Georgia's only live online morning newscast. That's the morning report with Kevin Hensley coming up in just 4 short minutes here. Stay tuned for that. I'll be back. We'll see you again tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock on North Georgia's only live online morning show. Good morning from the office. Lonnie, take us out of here. Have a nice day, folks.